Hello everybody, welcome to Lupus Fitness 333. My name is Angel. Today's topic is going to be winter. For those of you who live on the east side of the US or even in the Midwest, you're going to be experiencing really cold winters. Why is that important? For those of you who have arthritis or some kind of joint problem, forgive me, I'm a little sick today. I have a sinus infection. But you're going to experience joint problems. So I know for me, I don't really get it in my hips. I used to get them in my feet or in my ankles. But lately I've been getting them in my shoulders and in my elbows and in my wrist. Why? Because I usually do stuff physically, like especially for work. I have my arms exposed because I sweat a lot during work. So to avoid getting my hands caught or in anything, or like when I'm doing something, I wear short sleeves, or if I do wear long sleeves, I still roll them up. But because I'm exposing my arms to the cold, they start to hurt. In most cases, I don't take anything. I don't take a pain medication for it. Obviously, that's very uncomfortable. Hold up, I need to take off my glasses. Obviously, that's very uncomfortable, but I'm a firm believer in not taking pain medication because I've had a lot of bad experiences with them, where I use them as a how do I say it? I don't want to say a crutch, but I used to use them for everything. For even a little bit of pain, I immediately went to a painkiller. And it didn't help the problem because it just made me forget that I had the problem. It didn't really address it. It didn't help me improve it. And so I don't recommend it. But obviously that's for me. That's not for you guys. If you guys have to do something and the pain is too high, or maybe you don't have a high pain tolerance, then by all means do what makes you feel more comfortable. But again, if you still gotta work things out, then you still gotta do it, regardless if it hurts or not. That's life. I know we talked about it. Life is like that, especially for people who have conditions that are life altering or life changing. You got to do it, man. It's gonna hurt whether you like it or not. So you got to do it. And again, one of the main focuses of this channel that I'm doing is not only to relate to you guys as far as whatever happens, because obviously there are certain conditions and certain symptoms that maybe that some of you go through that I can't relate to, even though we may have lupus, or some people have cancer, some people have other things that may be asymptomatic, but I want that demographic to know that they're not alone. So anyways, the other thing is about winter is that you can get sick. Obviously, like me, I'm sick right now. For people who are on immunosuppressants, I'm someone who's on immunosuppressant. That's not a good idea. Obviously, it's how do I say? It's an impossibility for you to believe that you can't get sick, or that you can't afford being sick. It's just not possible. Everybody gets sick. Whether they get sick once a year, or once every 2 years, or 5 times in a year, people get sick, bro. It's inevitable. So take care of yourself. Your diet, or your how do I say, your meal plan has to really be taken into consideration during the winter. All right, for those of you who are not big eaters, just make sure you have some kind of vegetable, some kind of carbohydrate, or like a bread, or some kind of a thing that fills you up, and then some kind of protein, like meat, fish, beans and rice. That's a complete protein. So just make sure your plate is full of things that are going to provide you with enough vitamins and minerals, carbohydrates and protein for you to be able to handle the day. Obviously, I'm not a nutritionist, but I want you guys to understand that winter for people with our conditions, whether it be life-altering or life-changing, is very important not to get sick during the winter. Why? Because that's the harshest time of the year and it's unforgiving. Okay, we already have unforgiving conditions on us. We don't need more. All right, so that's another thing that we have to drive home into our minds, that we cannot afford to put ourselves into a position that's just going to make things harder for us. Okay, the whole point again of this channel is to make ourselves stronger, mentally, physically, spiritually. Okay, and so eating right, try to at least do your best to at least eat 3 times a day. Do your best to drink as much fluids, especially water, and then every now and then, supplement it with something that has salt and sugar every 2 or 3 days. That's what I do. Again, I'm not a nutritionist. Don't take my word for it. You can always go to your primary care physician to get some idea of what you should do for yourself. And if those of you who can't afford it, get a nutritionist who can customize a plan for you, which will be optimal for everybody. I wish I had a nutritionist, but for those of you who can't afford it, I'd recommend you do that. As far as working out, now I know we've talked about it. I just put out a video recently that I'm going to upload today. I'm just editing it. We're changing the format to only 2 exercises a video, so they're going to be shorter now. They should be half the length of what I used to do. 2 exercises, high reps, and we're going to focus on fluidity and functionality. Okay? Again, my reasons for doing that is because I realized some of the exercises I was posting don't really translate to the real life. We want things that help us get stronger in the real world. Lifting weights or doing certain exercises sometimes doesn't help us in a task that we do daily. So that's where I decided to shift my focus to. So I started looking at things that I do daily or what I believe people do on a regular basis, and I decided to turn that into an exercise. So some exercises will be a little bit unorthodox. It might not even look like an exercise, and it might look silly, which I'm fine. I completely take full responsibility if, we get made fun of in the comments, or I get made fun of in the comments. I'm pretty sure some of those comments will be really funny, which I look forward to reading. But yes, winter is something that we have to take into consideration. It's the most difficult time of the year for all of us. Okay, for those of you who have allergies, it's probably spring. Summer, obviously, depending on where you have your summer. Like, I'm in New York, so I get humid summers. Okay, humidity here, it's inescapable. But you can always rehydrate and you can always stay indoors. Okay, winter is a little bit more difficult here. You understand? Some people like winter, some people like summer. I am a person who doesn't necessarily like any season. I just like that there's change of seasons. Why? Because it reminds me not to be lazy. You have to constantly adapt to the seasons. All right, so that means I'm always changing clothes for the season. I'm always getting ready or anticipating the next season, or changing my home, changing the clothes, changing what can be done within that season. But mainly, as far as our health, we have to consider how we have to protect ourselves from that element. Now, winter is, like I said, is an unforgiving season. So your joints, if you have joint problems, you have to do your best to cover yourself up. I have arthritis in my hands. So that means I have to wear very, very warm gloves, or else my fingers will start to hurt, or they will tense up, or I'll lose strength in my hands because they'll be in pain and the joints won't properly work. And so even though I may have the muscle to flex and grab it, I could feel that they're not at 100% and may slow my my performance. I do a lot of physical work at my job, and when I'm not at work, I'm with my kids. And when I'm not with my kids, I'm working out. And if I'm not working out, obviously I'm eating or sleeping or doing some more research or whatever I got to do. The point is that I'm always active. And we have to remind ourselves to be that way too. Because, again, our conditions may trick us into believing comfortability is healing. Now, please don't misconstrue that. You can be comfortable in doing things that are active, okay? The point is that you're still moving your body. What I mean as in not making yourself too comfortable is like, let's say you are tired, but you have to get this thing done. But you feel much better staying at home because it's warm and you don't have to really move much. So you decide, I'll just put it off for the next day. This is a mistake. Why? Because we've talked about it. Our conditions don't take a rest. They don't take a day off. So from my experience with lupus is that just because today I felt like I want to sleep in because I'm also hurting, I don't want to go anywhere, and I want to save my energy, and I decide believing to stay in was going to save my energy for tomorrow, it's not the case. I woke up the next day feeling the same or maybe even worse, even though I had a full day of rest. Now I have to do it feeling worse, or my body is not as cooperative as it was yesterday. Even though yesterday wasn't that bad, but I somehow convinced myself that, oh, tomorrow will be better because I should be fully recovered. No. Again, that's what I mean as in don't make yourself too comfortable. Don't trick yourself into believing that if you give yourself a little bit of time, a whole day of rest, that would be enough. Your disease doesn't care if you're tired. You only think of it like it was an analogy that my a middle school teacher gave me. His name was Mr. Rovelski. He was a history teacher, and he said the way he graded people was that your work doesn't change. You change, meaning like as long as you continue doing the work will stay at a level. It would stay like this, and your work, let's say you're underperforming, and every time you turn in your work, you go up. But the work stays the same. He's capped the work to a certain level, right? So the disease is capped to a certain level. And every time you decide to not do the work that you need to do to overcome the disease, you're still there. The disease stays where it's at. So you have to constantly work at it to overcome the disease. Because again, eventually the stronger you get, the less the pain would be, or the more control you would have over your body, over tolerating some of the pain. That's what you want to ultimately get to the point where maybe the symptoms lessen, or you have almost no symptoms, but you still have the disease because you walk around and you're feeling a little tired or something like that. Again, we are doing our best to make ourselves stronger. It's not going to be easy, but as long as we put in the work and we remind ourselves of the reason how come we're doing this, we should be slowly climbing up that ladder or climbing up those stairs. All right? The stairs, the level of the stairs don't change. Our steps of going up does. Okay? Another point. Do your best to send me comments on what you guys think we should work on. I'm gonna do a poll, and I want people to tell me what exactly they want to work on. Obviously, I'm going to be doing functional and fluidity exercises, but I also want to put into consideration, specific muscle groups like legs. I want to make sure that we also work out our legs because that's the foundation for the body. As long as our lower body is strong, we could be able to move. And remember, that's your biggest muscle groups, is the legs. You have to keep those strong. You have to keep those active, or else you'll lock up, you'll tense up. For those of you who don't have joint problems or muscle problems or tendon problems, I'm not sure if that's a thing. For those of you who have, like, let's say something like cancer, I know I have a few friends that their conditions doesn't allow them to talk sometimes, or they faint. So I had to think of something for that. That's serious. I know that my brother-in-law had that. He beat it though, so I'm happy for him. But every now and then he would go mute, or he would just pass out. And he was a big guy. He was like 5'11", almost 6 feet, and he was like 200 pounds. So he would just kind of collapse, and we'd have to fight to get him up. And it was serious, and it sucked because it was not it was very demoralizing for him. So for that, we'll have to figure out a way to kind of keep that in mind. Obviously, I can't do nothing about that, but I think of stuff like that. I think of like, all right, what else we could do to make sure that we continue to be strong, we continue to push to make ourselves capable and use what we have, our conditions, to make ourselves better, to make ourselves stronger, to not allow our conditions to define us, but to see ourselves as, this is the reason why we have to be stronger. You understand? So yeah, winter is a harsh season that we have to be more diligent about. We have to be more diligent with working on our body, our mind, and our soul. Now, keep your mind sharp by reading things to help us stay on top of our nutrition, on top of our body, and on top of our soul, okay? Keeping all of that healthy will help us overcome, or at least deal with, the conditions that we have. Making sure that we eat right during the winter, because in most cases, it's people get lazy and they don't want to go out to get food, or they don't want to cook or something like that. That you got to make sure you're on top of that, man. Another thing is, this is the perfect time to read or to research, because again, if you don't want to go out, or you don't have to go out, I'd suggest you do at least some form of reading or research, maybe like 20 minutes. Don't go crazy. I'm not going to be a person that's going to tell you like do an hour reading. I mean, you could. For me, it's not. I have to have a reason why I'm doing it. It has to be related to something that I like for me to want to read it for that long. But usually I give it like 20 minutes. And I try to look for something very specific. So I'm not going to be reading for a long time. There has to be a reason for that. As far as your soul, what can we do? Some people say meditation. Not everybody could do that. So one form of meditation is exercising. Another one is cooking. Anything that requires you to have an extreme level of focus is a form of meditation. A form of completing a certain task in a certain order where you're completely focused and not distracted is a form of meditation. Okay? If we were to break down meditation, don't take my word for it. This is just me. I guess you could say it's me bullshitting, but I believe that that's what meditation is. You're focusing on something and letting your mind either clear itself or have an hyper focus. on something, you know, and working and practicing your way to heighten or lengthen that focus. All right. Some people may disagree and say that that's not what true meditation is. Okay. But that's what I believe meditation is. Being able to extend your level of focus and make it laser-like so that, you know, you can achieve better results in whatever is it that you pursue. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. My name is Angel. This is Lupus Fitness 333. And you guys have a nice day. Bye.